Alright, assuming you're a human being somewhere on planet Earth, you should at least possess these three things: a brain, a language through which you can communicate, and some form of social skill. And you're pretty much set to conquer the world. Here's how. Step 1. Have some level of societal sophistication. If you're a human being, you ought to be in a social group, because deep down we are social creatures. These groups form societies, and societies usually have some form of structure, whether that's education, work, or culture. It is imperative that you be familiar with some level of societal structure if you wish to continue on this journey to conquer the world. Force yourself into social events, be friendly with people, get as much information about the human behavior in collectives as you can. It is going to be invaluable in the future, as you'll see. Step 2. Know where you're starting. This is where things will start to gain traction for you. This is essentially where the game begins. The section above shows the KPI, which is basically the key performance indicators for your progress towards conquering the world. The green one is money, the yellow one is influence, and the red one is risk. Now, depending on where you're starting out your journey to conquer the world, you'll have differing access to money, connections, and opportunities. The objective is to earn some money. Mow lawns for $10 an hour, clean someone's house for $5, just earn some money. This is the activity of highest leverage right now. As you continue with this mundane life for now, make sure you're also making friends, the ones you bond with over your actual interest, because this is most likely the last time you're allowed to show any emotion. The friends you make here should accompany you into the very end of this journey. Choose wisely. Step 3. Get hold of basic needs. As you mow lawns, clean houses, or walk someone's pet dog, you'll eventually save some money for food and shelter, which is extremely important for the activities you're about to engage in. As you secure a house and some food for yourself, go to the nearest library with the leftover money and buy books, lots of them, particularly specializing in politics, philosophy, and business. This is a shortcut to amassing knowledge, which is probably the most important thing in this journey. Your life for the next 6 months would be work, study, and socializing. With the friends you made in Step 2, you could even try discussing this abstract political and philosophical issues that you had been reading in the books you just bought in Step 2. You see, the opportunities in such a journey would be endless, which is exactly why it makes it so hard. Step 4. Have access to power. If you're not already in one, move to a bigger city, experience what national and international culture is like, get cunning at it. Try to outsmart people, but don't be too flashy. By the time you're in a big city, you should have saved enough money to sustain yourself while you apply for a job. That's right, you're gonna apply for a job now, which is one of the most strategic steps in this journey. You see, the verbal fluency you've just acquired from reading so many books and discussing it with your friends back in your house cleaning days will give you an edge now. You can pass any interview, outspeak any human resource manager. Just make sure no one is wary of your intentions, which is to climb the company's hierarchy and get close to the key members. Choose a moderate-sized company, where the top positions aren't too inaccessible, and start working. Your priority now is to use the tactics you've learned in Machiavelli's Prince, your house cleaning days, to swiftly befriend up the hierarchy. Be useful to them, arrange a car for the company's regional manager if his own breaks down. Make as many good connections as you can. And while you're at it, get yourself a mentor. Someone who is experienced with bureaucracies, which is probably the most invaluable thing in this journey. Time is key. The more you perform acts of loyalty, the better your chances of having access to their resources in the future. Step 5. Get closer and gain their trust. As you continue being a great employee at the corporation and eventually establish personal relationships with some of the key members because of their use of all your connections from Step 2, you are now in a good position to start experimenting with money. Invest. If you suck at it, try business ideas in risk-free environment. This is where the business knowledge you acquire from reading books in Step 2 will come into play. Do all this without outshining your mentor, perhaps with the help of the friends you made in Step 1. Your best bet is to not trust anyone at the moment. As you establish a proof of concept for your business, even if moderately profitable, would give you a safety net just in case the job you have right now gets taken away. Keep learning and asking questions to your mentor. Continue cultivating the connections, do it for several years on end. Step 6. As years pass and you continue learning everything, by this time you're most likely familiar with all the pain points, the trade secrets, how things happen in the upper echelons of bureaucracies, which is extremely imperative. You should be sufficiently experienced and knowledgeable in market trends and financial acumen to start your own business. When you do, if not successful, do not tell anyone and continue in the position you are in now. If successful, establish yourself as the negotiator and the middleman between the major players in your industry. Make the nature of your business disruptive so people are forced to respect and provide money for the services you offer. Play it extremely safe, be on the good side of everyone, but also make sure your ties are protected through mutual interest. If powerful person X maintains ties with you in exchange for your business services, you're good to go. Do this for hundreds of powerful people. Make your business a global enterprise. Choose to stay wealthy but be anonymous. You cannot afford to face the media or have the general public keep an eye on you, which is a later step as you'll see. Step 7. If everything goes according to plan, you should be a billionaire by now and have enough resources and connections to fine-tune the skills you've already mastered, such as persuasion, finance, or business. You must have an underground reputation by now as well, through which you can contact media companies and offer them your services at such a ridiculously generous offer that they give placing in their media campaigns. Everything is looking great now. You've mastered everything you started with. You're independent, powerful, and gradually developing a cult of personality thanks to the media campaigns around the world. Except there's a problem. A problem that is bigger than anything you've faced so far. You see, the thing is, you obviously didn't come this far without a team, and who knows, some of the close members in your team may have been your friends from step 1. Now with the team and such unprecedented power and resources at stake, there's increasing chances of betrayal. This is where the real paranoia begins, because as the public slowly finds out more about you through media campaigns, there's no doubt you'll start to be, at first, in the radar of intelligence agencies, and then if your threat of influence is perceived to be big enough, you'd be on the radar of many countries, defense watch lists. The obvious problem here is the first one, intelligence agencies. They can bribe anyone from your team, pretend to be anyone, or worse, pull a Fidel Castro on you. 600 attempts of assassination, by the way. Before this unfamiliarity with the giants gets out of hand, you approach them first, which leads us to step 8. Now is your time to make the power move. But before this, make sure your team has excruciatingly researched the supply chain and economic trade flow of every single country, especially the big players. This is also where it all gets extremely risky, so brace yourself. With robust propaganda machines, trade relations, and economic entities under your control, you are in a perfect position to invest in poor countries by giving them a scandalously massive amount of loan and get an ironclad grip of its ministry when they fail to repay. Hate the game, not the player. Just know that you are most likely competing with giants, so do not be stingy with your infrastructure, both managerial and operational. As you continue to do this, you are bound to be ambushed, betrayed, or even assassinated by non-allies. Assuming you make it through all this, of which chances are higher if you align yourself with the superpowers of the time you're in, you should be able to have a good grip on a lot of political, military, and economic institutions around the world. The only problem with aligning yourself with superpowers though is that they won't let you race ahead of them, so it's time to be strategic. If the official position is that they won't let you race ahead of them, you can simply maintain a personal relationship with the higher ups through highly extravagant offers and you should be fine. Once you get hold of the army or the nuclear arsenal, you can easily make everyone submit to your authority overnight. While you're doing all this though, make sure to keep an eye on the superpowers that have not become your allies yet, and your own team and the person you establish a clandestine connection with in the higher ups of the government. Do all this without spending a lot of cognitive load, which is impossible unless you simply do not fear death. And if you do allocate stress, it will most likely be fatal in the long run. Step 9. This is essentially the last legitimate step, because after this it's impossible to predict what may happen. As you get hold of the inner circle of the superpower government and have your men in many foreign states with their own incentives and objectives, you should be in a safe position to become the de facto ruler of the superpower and effectively the world. Your first objective should be to get rid of the United Nations through your connections in intelligence agencies. Then have back-channel talks with every government in the world concerning an emergency in the global economic supply chain, which would get worse if they don't resign. Threaten them with sanctions. Assuming all this is successful, establish your puppet rule from your side inside countries and punish the ones that don't comply. At last, get hold of the judiciary branch of every government under your control and simply amend their constitution. Remember, you're a de facto ruler with an iron grip on the world's strongest army. and nuclear arsenal. Also, not like this hasn't happened before. As you access the Constitution, make sure you also invoke the sections that prohibit protests and any form of gathering, basically enforce martial law across the world. Cut off the internet and any form of media, because the chaos that's about to ensue in Step 10 will be unprecedented in human history. Step 10. Proclamation. The coming few weeks are with the highest stakes. You are about to do something no one in history has ever done. Every moment in your life from the beginning of this journey has led to this very time. Prepare for the symbolic day of coronation, when in one call all of the world's military, economic and political mandate would be under your command. An abrupt proclamation is the only way to go because we are trying to be a recognized ruler, not a de facto ruler as we were all this time. This is bound to start massive protests across the world, but with most of the world's instruments of power under your control, it should be easy to silence and pacify every bit of denial of your authority. The day comes, your loyal supporters are in the Coronation Hall, which was chosen to be the United Nations General Assembly auditorium, as any radical shifts in public consciousness of the center of authority would elicit even more protests because of the unfamiliarity of such place. Most of the world's population is in confusion. There's chaos everywhere, but your elite force is keeping everything in check. There are some revolts because of the disruption of global economy, but everything seems to be stable. You choose, or more like force, the leading religious and political authorities to shift their power to you in a televised ceremony, which would probably break the record of the most viewed live broadcast in history. Congratulations, you just conquered the world. At the cost of a normal life. But what's a normal life anyways?